It is the 19th of January, 2024. This is Regine Weinberg. I am Eden Glazer, and we are filming in Los Angeles, California at the USC Shoah Foundation. Okay. Whenever you are ready, tell me your name.
Regine Weinberg.
Can you spell it, please?
RegineWeinberg.
Thank you.
Yes.
Where were you born?
May 17, 1939 in Paris, France.
And can you tell me a bit about your parents?
Okay. Well, my mother is from Poland.
Mhm.
She came to Poland in 1938, left her family beyond in Poland, and went to a restaurant where a lot of immigrants come together, and this is where she met my father, and soon got married. She got married in 1938, and we lived in Paris. So I was born in 1939, May, and I believe the war started in November. Well, they lived in Paris. My father was a tailor, a custom tailor, and my mother was working with him. She was a very good seamstress, and they spoke only at home Yiddish. So French was difficult for my mother because she had just come from Poland. So I would hear in the household Yiddish and Polish. Okay. When the war started to get really seriously, my father used to tell my mother, don't worry, they're not going to come here. But soon enough, they did. The Germans invaded Paris, and a lot of people like us were in hiding in Paris. We try not to go out very much. My mom used to go and do her shopping, and while she was waiting at a bakery and online with people would insult her because they could hear that she was not French and tell her she should go home and not eat their bread. Anti-Semitic type of insult that she had to, unfortunately, hear. I don't know exactly how long they lived in Paris until they decided that they should move, you know. And my father had 3 brothers. They all took their family and were into hiding into the country. And they were living in a city called Nancy, east of France, of Paris. My father and my mother, they decided after a year being in Paris and kind of hiding, not being seen too much, they decided to move down south to Marseille, which is a port in southern France. And there, my mother got pregnant and had my second sister. And she was born in 1943. So at that time, I probably was almost 4 years old. And finally, my father decided that he doesn't want to be in hiding. Other people, men, go to war. And he decided to volunteer to go into the French army. A lot of Jewish men did that. And he was not French, so he could not go in the regular army. He volunteered to a legion, a foreign legion for France, and left my mother alone in Marseille. And they used to correspond. at that time, he got caught in the war and had to fight with the French. And uh, he got a grenade in his back, you know. So he was in a hospital in a prisoner camp, and the camp was run by Germans at that time. My mother used to go from Marseille and visit him with me. And because my father was a tailor, he used to do suits for the Nazis, for the big shots. And being that he was a tailor, he needed supplies. So once in a while, he had to go into the town, wherever he was, with a German Nazi as a guard to buy supplies. While he was there, many times, my father would say to the Nazi, let's go and have a pastry at the boulangerie, you know. So they would stand looking at the pastries and bread. And while the German was busy looking at that, my father would tell the owner of the bakery, I'm a prisoner of war. Can you please have civilian clothes ready for me as I'm going to evade one day? Soon after that, my father needed again to go into town. And at that time, the Nazis that he was working for were very nice to my father because he spoke German, you see. And they would ask him, how come, Herr Kluge, Sie sprechen Deutsch? How come, Mr. Kluge, you speak German? He says, well, because I lived in the German side of France, which is, you know, close to Germany. And a lot of French people spoke German and French. That saved his life, I think. So he needed to go again, and they said to him, Herr Kluge, gehen Sie allein. Herr Kluge, you can go by yourself. They trusted him. Well, that's the last time they saw him. He got to the boulangerie, and they had civilian clothes for him, and of course, that was the end of him being a prisoner. My mother he got in contact with my mother in Marseille to come and meet him, that he has made arrangements to be smuggled into Switzerland. So my mother decided to take me on the train, and I cannot remember if my sister Irene was there. I just remember myself. And we got on the train. We were sitting in a compartment where there was only one man across from us, a Frenchman. When the controller came to get the tickets, the train, after he took the ticket from this gentleman, he went to look at my mother's papers, and the man says, this woman is Jewish, take her off the train, which meant that the Germans was waiting always in the middle of the train station. There was always a kiosk, you know, little house where the Germans, Nazi, were waiting to take out the Jews from the train. And that would be to take them to Auschwitz or whatever. So the French control man said, I cannot let you go back on the train. And she was screaming and crying, you know, my husband is fighting for your country, you know. He says, I'm sorry, I cannot let you go on a train. And she needed to meet him, you see. So he just couldn't let her go back. So she says, if you don't let me go back on the train, I'm going to throw myself or my child on the rail. Well, he got pity on my mother. He says, I cannot let you on the train, but just go straight out from the train station. He showed her where to go. So she's walking in the middle of it wasn't completely the morning. It was still a little night. And she's walking on a road completely deserted with me. And a man with a truck stopped who delivers milk in the morning, you know, with the big cans of milk. And he sees this woman with a child. He stops. He took my mother and me to his wife, to his house, who took care of us and contacted my father. So at that time, she had to meet him in Lyon. That's a Lyon is a big city in France, in the east of France, which is close to Germany, and that's why a lot of French people spoke German. See, so this man you had to pay. Some would take the Jews across safely, and some would kill them on the way after they'd been paid. So it was very dangerous, even not knowing whether you're going to survive the crossing into Switzerland. But so we were in the woods with this man, and I guess it was me and my sister Irene. And my mother kept telling us to keep our mouths shut, not ask for anything, so they can see that my mother has to answer in French. She didn't want that this man, would be an enemy. And I'm a little bit lost now. I have to think for a minute. What did we do? So we got across safely, but before crossing, it was very dangerous because there was a German guards from one corner to the other of the wood that would cross. You had to cross each other, and we had to cross just in the middle. But God was with us. We saved. When we came across, some of the Swiss would accept some of the Jews, and some they would send back. We were lucky. My mother and me and my father were put in a camp for refugees. And at that camp, one woman who was a doctor in, I don't know what, not medical, in the government, was to come by and look at the refugee. And she noticed my mother with 2 children knitting, making clothes for us, got pity on us, took us out immediately from that camp, where they did not mistreat you there, but you were lucky if they kept you there, you see, and put us in a private home in a city near St. Gallen. That's a city, and the place where we were was called a Retobel. I don't know how you spell it, Retoble, a little in the country, see, where we were given an apartment. My father used to make clothes for the farmers. They gave us food. He was not allowed to work. And we were there for more than 2 years, safe. At the end of the war, this lady asked us if we want to stay in Switzerland. She will give us Swiss citizenship, which is something that you cannot even buy in Switzerland. She took a liking to us. But my father refused because he has 3 brothers in France. He didn't want to stay in Switzerland. It was foreign to him. Didn't speak Swiss. I speak a little bit of Swiss. So we decided to come back to Paris. And that's when he got together with his brothers after the war and started up his little business of tailoring. So we were there until 1948 in Paris back. 1948, the world had a crisis of the U.S., with the U.S., England, and France. Of the Suez Canal was being built by the Egyptian. And things didn't go well. The next thing you see on the newspapers, Third World War. My mother saw that, came home, told my father, we're packing again. They're not going to come, blah, 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 Soon enough, they're packing. They had relatives in Argentina. And here we are packing to go to Argentina after 3 years being in France. The war did not happen, but it was very serious, you see. And she didn't want to wait and see when, So we were in Argentina for 2 years. And my father, being a tailor, had a hard time making a living there because he was a custom tailor, not where you uh, uh, alignment of you do just one part of a suit, you know. Couldn't make a living. They had a hard time learning Spanish. I was the oldest, so I was the interprete. I used to go for them everything. I was only, I think of that I came there, I was 8 years old, and I think I was doing all the errands at 9 years old for my family because I learned Spanish very fast. I have a gift of language. So I used to do all the shopping. They used to give me a big bag, and I used to go like Central Market here with a list, tell me not to talk to anybody. They put me on a public bus, and I came home with a bag that was bigger than me. So I was always the go-getter out of the family, wherever we were. I learned Spanish really fast, and after 2 years, my father hardly made a living, came back to France, where he could be self-employed, you see. So we were in France until 1951. My mother, or it was my father, I'm not sure, had relatives in New York who came to the United States before the war. And they would correspond with us and say, why don't you bring your three pretty girls here, you know? Because in those days, if you were from just a working class family, if a beautiful girl got in love with the son of a very wealthy family, he was given the option, if you marry her, you're going to be disowned. So it was that motivated my parents to say, you know what, who doesn't want to go to United States, right? So we packed the bags, we went to New York. In New York, my father had the same problem he had in Argentina. For him to get it, he couldn't open up a place right away. He doesn't speak English. So he went to downtown at a big shop, where they work on piecework, you know? And he wasn't used to that. He was used to doing the whole thing himself, could not make a living again. So we got in such a bad way that the Jewish joint had to help us with food. And here we are in a bad situation, and my father wanted to go back to France. So we've been going back and forth. I learned English at that time. The American people were wonderful to immigrants. They took me in a special class so I should be able to follow the grade that I was in. So 2 years in New York, and here we're packing again, going back to France. And my parents didn't like New York. It was terrible for them, going on that subway and we went back to France, not thinking that we ever want to come back here. So they didn't take papers, return papers. And then they realized again, we are really the wandering Jew, that there's future of their three daughters, no matter how pretty they are, how nice, they would be limited for marriage material. And that was true at that time. So we pack again. You see how many times back and forth with machines, with everything that we had, tremendous amount of everything. We came back to New York, where our family was. But they decided that they were not going to sit there. It would be again the same challenge that he had in Argentina. We came to California, and that's where we ended up. So at that time I was 19. I was engaged to be married to a French Jewish boy who his father was deported, who was counted dead, so there was no question about money, And I got engaged and swore in front of a rabbi that I'm going to come back to marry him because my parents had already decided they're going to go back to New York for the sake us or whatever. I never went back. My parents would stop me from seeing fellows here, and they wanted me to meet somebody here. But I was writing all the time to my fiance in France. I wanted to go back to France, but they made my life pretty miserable because that's what I wanted to do. And just about that time, uh, I meet my husband, who is now my husband, on the Brooklyn train. He was sitting across from me and with a newspaper. We were looking at each other, and I got up, and next to me was a woman who asked me how to go to New Jersey. I said, I'm sorry, I'm not from New York. I cannot help. He heard that, my accent. I got up for the train. When it stopped, I walked out, and I'm looking at the other trains that goes direct to where I was going. And all of a sudden, I hear the doors from the train open up, and this young man came out from the train at the last minute, because the train, when somebody opens the door in the third car, all of them open. And he got up from his seat and came and behind me and asked me if I can help me. And that's how we met. And we started seeing each other a little bit, because engaged is not married. I didn't know what he was doing there. And I had no intention, but, I was flattered, and he was very handsome, my husband. Still is, We started to see each other, and I made up my intent. I told him I'm engaged to be married, so I have to go back to France and see if it's still there, what was, because it was more than a year and a half of correspondence. And he said to me, if you must go, know that you have here a man that loves you, and I hope you come back. And if you need to come back right away, I asked my father for money to send you a ticket. And the night that we said goodbye, I was going by boat. We said goodbye to each other. And in the morning, I had a taxi waiting for me. And while I was putting my stuff in the taxi, a American Express came with a telegram to my building. I know it was for me, you see. And while I'm holding the telegram in the taxi, reading it, my sister comes down from the third floor, say, Regine, Alan is on the phone. He wants to know if you left okay. In the taxi, I changed my mind. I told the taxi man that I'm not going to the port. I'm sorry, I changed my mind. He starts to curse me in Italian. I answered him back, shut up. How much is the fare to the port? So he tells me $20. I'm going to give you $40. Please take out my suitcase. Here I am on the street with my suitcase. And my sister tells Alan that I have changed my mind in the taxi. And he came from downtown in the jewelry section. He worked for his cousin, and he told his cousin, my French poodle is not leaving United States. Okay, if you fire me, I have to leave right now. And he was in a half an hour. I was standing with my suitcase crying. I was afraid to go up to my parents, who were mad at me, and that's how we met. And then we got engaged. I sent a telegram to my fiance in France. I will explain by letter. I sent a telegram to his mother. He never got it because he came to England to wait for me at the boat. Here he's standing there with 3,000 people coming down the boat, and there's no Regine. Terrible, So that's my story, And then in New York, Alan decided to come and follow me with my parents to California. And when he came down here, he didn't have a job right away. And we got married, I think, a month or 6 weeks after he arrived. And we started with $0, nothing. My parents didn't even come to witness me getting married because they wanted to punish me for being a bad girl. That's it. And since then, I've been in California and I established my business. I first worked at the Beverly Wilshire Hotel doing makeup as a makeup artist and opened up in a salon, in a beauty salon at a counter in Beverly Hills, Beverly Drive. And that's how I started my career of makeup. After working for this lady for about a year and a half, I opened up my own bar in a salon, and then I opened up my own salon, of skincare, because that's what I was trained in France. I took my schooling of skincare in Paris, and that's it. And now I am 84, and think back of my life. I had bad moments, but I had good moments too. And I have an adorable husband for 62 years who is wonderful. And had my daughter, and she was a wonderful child. Put her through college, private school from day one that she was born. By the way, put her in a private school, and she did very well. She's a lawyer too. I'm happy to be here.
I'm glad you're happy to be here. I'm happy you're here.
Yeah.
That was so much and so rich, so thank you. We're going to go back a little bit.
Yes.
First to something before you were even born. Do you know what brought your parents from Poland to France?
What brought them?
Mhm.
Okay. My mother's, it's kind of tragic background. She lost her mother when she was, I think, 3 years old. And there were three sisters, and one brother. Her father was a tailor too. And very little, he made for my mother like a wife. In other words, she had to do dishes at a very young age. They used to put a little stool so she can stand up. She was like the maid of the household. She became a seamstress and she was very, very good. And she was supposedly supposed to marry a young man until she has her dowry completed. That's how it was in those days, To make a long story short, he changed his mind. I think he took some of her money that she got and changed his mind. I think she was 22 or 23 at that time. So that was, they say in Yiddish, a shanda, ashamed that he was jilting her. She made her suitcase and left home. That's how she happened to be coming into France, because she had heard other people doing that they find a job, and that's how she came to Paris.
And what was your mother's name?
Golda Lefkovich.
Thank you.
Golda. Mm-hmm.
And your father, what was his name?
Israel.
And what brought him to France?
His three brothers. He was the youngest of the brothers, and he didn't get married purposely because he wanted to send back everything he makes to help his family in Poland. He never saw them again, neither did my mother. And my mother survived the war very badly. She never got over losing her family. Guilt of her leaving, and she developed a goiter, a thyroid, a bad thyroid with the eyes protruding, and a very, how should I say, very difficult to be with, She never just could adjust after the war, like some of her family did.
And regarding the Jewish life of your family and your parents, what did they know Jewishly growing up? And what did they teach you and your sisters?
Well, my father was brought up in a religious family, but I would say more reformed. My mother, too. So we came to France. He would go to synagogue, on the big holidays, and he would take me along. And I remember not liking that because I would be sitting there up above with my mother and seeing men crying hysterically after the war. And maybe 2 years, you know, they're all there crying, the whole synagogue, So I never liked going to a synagogue.
Can you tell me a bit about your sisters, their names, when and where they
Okay.
were born?
My middle sister, her name is Irene. Irene, and she's been married twice, and we have no contact with each other. My younger sister was named Paulette, and my two sisters married just to get out of the house. It didn't matter who, and they made bad choices. Both Jewish boys, but bad choices. So Irene didn't do too well. And my younger sister married a young man who made a good living and all that, but was not really what she was happy with. And unfortunately, she committed suicide. Not to, at age 31 with 2 children. That's why I lost my hair and lost my home that I just bought because she did it in my house, in my pool. After that, it was really very difficult for me.
Thank you for sharing.
Excuse me?
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. But it's still, it stays with you because she was very depressed, wanted to get divorced, and he was not happy about it and threatened her. So I was taking care of her for a little while when she was very depressed. I took her to a psychiatrist because I could not be her psychiatrist anymore. And they put her into a 72-hour hold, when somebody threatened. She thought that I purposely took her to the doctor, and then she ended up in that place. And I told her, and the doctor said, "No, that's not your sister. It's my duty when somebody, you know." And I told her to just relax, to just read a book. Don't say anything that's aggressive, and you'll come back home. They released her, and she came to my house rather than to go back alone in a house. And after 3-4 days that she was there, I was trying to make a nice dinner for Sunday. I had invited some relatives of us to distract her. I had to go do my shopping for food, wanted her to come with me. She got dressed, and she decided she doesn't want to come. She said she was tired. I said, "Please, I don't want to leave you alone." But I had no right to stop her. Do you understand? You can't stop somebody. So I left my house in the valley. I had a burglar alarm put on. She was safe. I came back from shopping. I opened the door and the alarm was not on. So I called my husband right away. I think she went out of the house. He says, "Are you sure she's not in the backyard?" Well, yeah, I had a huge pool there. And when I stepped up the little steps, there she was in the pool, dead. See, so I was panicky. It was the beginning of a bad life for me because I couldn't stop crying. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I became like 95 pounds. So she destroyed my life there at that time because I didn't want to stay in that house anymore. I had just bought it 9 months. And my husband told the doctor, whatever I have to do to take her out of that house. And since then, we've had finance problems because she took away the base of our savings, you know? So that's it. But I was depressed for a couple of years. And one day I looked in the mirror and I said to myself, I went for a job, and that's the first time that somebody didn't give me a job that I went for. They saw in me that I wasn't well. And that's when I decided to rebounce, to go to work again. And my husband said, so how are you going to open up a shop just like that? You have no client. I say, I am next to a manicuring place. You know, I'll take a chance. What's the say? And I got successful right away because at that time there were not many estheticians, you know, and I used to go in every day to my manicuring place, say hello with my little pink uniform instead of white, and I got successful overnight in my shop. So that's my story. Anything else you want to know?
Yes. But do you need a break or anything?
Do I know?
Do you need a break or anything? Because
No,
there's more
whatever
I
you
want to
like.
know. What was your shop called?
Regine Darel.
How do you?
Regine
Mhm.
Darel in Brentwood.
Thank you.
Darel is not my name, it's just a fictitious name. I wasn't going to put Weinberg.
Speaking of fictitious names, can you tell me a bit about your middle name?
My middle name is Rachel. Never used it. So when I go to the French consulate, they argue with me. That's not when I say I'm Regine. They say, no, you're not. I say, so, you know. so, but I don't use my middle name. But here I would. I feel safe in this country than I do in France. In France, I was also considered a Jew just by my name. And you would feel it, especially after the war, you would feel it. Even now, you can feel it.
What does it feel like
To be here,
to
feel anti-Semitism,
Mhm.
terrible. Because now I'm starting to feel it again because of what's happening in the world. You see? So it reminds me of everything where I don't want to go certain places or drive certain places alone. I'm afraid to even drive on Sepulveda Boulevard by myself to go to the valley. In France, it wasn't too bad because I don't look Jewish. See, because after I came to this country, I made a big difference. Yeah, so this is still the best country to be in. But I do miss France. I miss Europe, the lifestyle.
Thinking back on all the places you've lived, where feels like home?
Where do I feel home? I feel home here, but I do miss Europe very badly. I've gone back a couple times and I could live there again in spite of what, because the atmosphere of Paris is not comparable any place. And I loved it.
You mentioned that it was easy for you to learn Spanish in Argentina.
Yes,
Where did you learn it?
in school. They put me right away in school. I think 3-4 months after I started speaking Spanish. I think I have a gift for language because I can speak fluently Yiddish. I can speak Spanish pretty well still. I can speak also Italian because it's very similar to Spanish. And of course, French and Yiddish. I speak fluent Yiddish, hearing my parents speak Yiddish.
Can you tell me a little bit more about your experience with school? When did you first go to school? Was it during the war?
No, I I think that maybe in Marseille I was like in a what they call kindergarten, and once I walked away from there, got lost in the city, and walked away. My parents were desperate; they couldn't find me, and then a woman saw a group of people looking at a child. It was me. I went with my big bottle or whatever my parents gave me to go downstairs on the building, and I just walked away. Yes. So the woman looked and she said, "This is the child that I know that lives in my building." So I was they took me to the police station. A good thing that they couldn't see that I'm Jewish, otherwise they would transfer me to the Germans. So I was a very, I would say, vivacious child, nosy, you know. I'm still that way, I think. And so that's the experience in Marseille. What more can I tell you?
Did you go to school in Switzerland?
Yes, a little bit, like a kindergarten.
Mhm.
So I think I learned a little bit Schweizerdeutsch, which is very close to Jewish. So I guess I was the interpret for my father, who did not learn fast. You know, he could speak German, so in Switzerland people could understand him. But he took me every place there. I was the oldest, you know. Hmm.
How did it feel to be the interpreter for your parents?
It felt at the time, I felt proud of myself. I've been always the caretaker of my family, even after. I'm the one who take care of my parents. I'm the one who went to the administrations because uh, I could speak fluent French. They couldn't know who I am until they see my name.
Going back a little more, you mentioned you were hiding in Paris and in Marseille. Do you remember anything about that?
Yes, I think we would be hiding in, my father especially was hiding in an attic. Every, a lot of apartments had attics. And he just kept a very low profile because at the beginning of the war, they were not all over the place, the Germans. They came there, I think, not right away, you see. So my parents were lucky that they left Paris and went down south, you know. And his three brothers survived, hidden. They had gone even before away, you see. But it was really tragic there. You used to hear terrible stories where the Nazi would come and find out in the building from the concierge, which is the woman who takes care of the building, like a superintendent, how many people, what floor they are. And the next morning they came to pick you up. So we did not experience that because we left. We were lucky. Let's put it this way, we were lucky.
And how old were you when you learned of this story of when you were a baby and
Because I used to hear them talk about it to people, and I was kind of nosy. I would stand behind the door. They wouldn't let me listen and listen. And many times I think they talked for years about that with people that they would get together. And I used to want to hear what they were saying. So I'm the only one from the three girls that really experienced that. My two sisters didn't.
Who were your friends as a kid?
So,
Who were your friends as a kid? Did you make friends in all the places you went?
not in Argentina. No, I used to, from school, come right home in a building that we lived like a duplex. The owner's daughter used to call me Dirty Jew. And my father told me, they do that, don't let them, don't let it get to them. And I was told to tell him, yes, I am a Jew, but you are dirty. I am proud to be a Jew and you are dirty. So I had to fight that she scratched my face. I came home, bleeding on my face in Argentina, where the Nazis were very happy there. My mother used to see them walk in the main avenues. She would recognize them. They were in civilian clothes, but they had the shoes, the boots were German. And they would speak German walking. They were felt. And she used to come home crying to my father. I see now the killers of my sisters or my family. There were a lot of them.
You mentioned that your parents didn't come to your wedding.
They didn't know.
Did you resolve things with them afterwards?
They,
Did you ever have a resolution?
we had problems. My mother was especially, I did not get along with my mother. I mean, she had many, many qualities, but they wouldn't let me go out only with my sisters. I could not date when I was of age of dating, you see. So I was, how should I say, restricted a lot. I could not make a French friend from school. So I did not have a good teenage years at all. Always upset, very upset, where I would sometimes want to commit suicide. So to punish me, they didn't. And here I married a nice Jewish boy. They had no reasons not to come. He left his family in New York. When they found out that my parents didn't do nothing, all they had to do is invite their family at their home and make a table, But they wanted to punish me for not being obedient to them. That's how it was in those days. Not only my family, the parents had locks on their children.
Did you talk about the war with Alan?
Did I what?
Talk about the war with Alan when you first met?
Yes. Yes, I did. And, I felt so comfortable because you could talk to my daughter. I have a husband that's the sweetest man, a Hamish, adorable man, like his father. So I was lucky with that. God rewarded me with that. You know, it was refreshing to be with him. To be positive. Also, I had times I didn't talk to my parents at all. We just couldn't get along. They were too strict, and that's why my two sisters didn't do well because they were not as strong as I am. And when I got married, they both panicked. When I was still at home, they felt a little bit more protected because I'm the one who would not let it happen, who resisted my parents.
Can you tell me if there are any other times when you experienced anti-Semitism after the war?
You mean when I was living in France?
In France or the States? You mentioned the story in Argentina.
Hmm. Argentina, I don't remember anything bad. You know, people were nice there. I have no bad memory from Argentina. I had more stressful experiences in France, in school, because I came back from Argentina. I spoke Spanish, so I had to get back into French. I was not good in French literature and all that. They did not put me, as in New York, they put me in a special class to help me be able to follow the class. In France, they just let me vegetate there. The teachers were horrible adults in those days. They could hit you on the hands. I was the only me and one other girl that was Jewish in the class, and you could still feel that you were Jewish. I remember the teacher being very nasty to me. And I was a talker in class, with my friend. She would put me in the closet. She had a closet there, a double door closet. One had a hole about like this. When she punished you to make you stand in the closet. So I've been in the closet many times. I was a talker.
Can you tell me a bit more about the move from the refugee camp in St. Gallen to the private home? The name of the doctor who brought you to the
Yeah,
private
her
home?
name was Dr. Frieda Rittmeyer. In fact, I wanted one day put an ad in the papers there to thank the family, the surviving, because after the war she came to Paris every single year with her husband, and my father made a suit for him and a coat for his wife. So they came every year. They adopted us. They loved us. They were very good. So her name was Dr. Frieda Rittmeyer. How you spell it? Ritthmeyer. Rittmeyer. And many times I wanted to put an ad in the paper because she probably has surviving, grandchildren. She was older than us, than my parents. I never got to do it.
What brought you to school to be an esthetician?
Well, originally, because I was gifted with language, I thought I should be an interpreter. And my parents didn't agree to that because I'd be surrounded with men. So that was in the world. And I had a lady friend who was the parents of a student in my class who took a liking to me and who asked me to come and live with them for a while. I left home for maybe a couple of weeks. And she's the one who used to talk to me about what I would like to do. And she's the one who would suggest, why don't you go into the beauty business? Beauty business? To do what? So I found out about skincare. I was only 15 and a half at that time. And that's when I should have gone to a bigger school. But I failed the entrance test because my French wasn't good enough. So I was very depressed. So she said, you have nice face, nice hair, blah, blah, blah. And I said, you know what? That's a good idea. Then I can put lipstick, which I was not allowed to do, put mascara. And that's how I went to a school that teaches, and you had to be 18 to be able to go there. But I looked very mature at 15. My father said to me, if they don't ask your age, just put the money on the desk. you know. But they say, how old you are? I said, I'm 17. Oh, so I was going to be 18 soon. They took the money. They never asked me how old I was again, you know. In fact, I was the youngest in the whole class of mature women. I think the next to me would be in the early 20s. And I passed the test, and discovered that I was very good at it with my hands, you know. And because I was the youngest, I was the model for the whole class. And because of that, that particular teacher took time afterwards to teach me personally, you know. And she told me that she knows I'm going to be very good. And I liked it very much. So I came here with that in mind. And some of the relatives here said, oh, she should go back to school. She's smart. She should go back to school. In France, you don't go back to school after you know, it's, it's here, a 90-year-old can go back to school. So I decided to go into my field. I applied right away to the top plate. My father told me, don't go from the bottom, go from the top down. So I applied to the hotel on Wilshire Boulevard for makeup. And I was there for about a year and a quarter, waiting to go back to France, easy to get married. And uh, I was there for about a year. And then I started to think I want to go on my own and make some money before going back to France. And I worked on a shop on Beverly Drive next to a deli that I remember. I managed a shop with makeup, and then went on my own from then after.
How did it feel as a child to be moving from place to place?
Personally, it was an experience that just taught me a lot. It did not bother me, at all, because I think I was proud of myself that I was good in language, and that can take me every place, you know? So I was happy with myself when I came here, knowing all these languages. It opened doors for me.
Tell me a bit about your grandchildren.
My what?
Grandchildren.
Oh, I have three of them that are gorgeous, and one day love me. I have a young one who one day, who knows, who is very outgoing. She would like to be in a movie. She's beautiful. She's like a little actress, actually. She would do Lucy Ball, imitate her. So she's, and people say that she's more like me. As the older one, brains from little on, I could see in her eyes that she was going to be smart. And my husband said, how can you tell? I said, I'm telling you. And sure enough, super smart and super nice. Tiny little girl, 5'1", you know, is she was the example in her school when she went for the teacher to say that she's never had a student like her. I have that in writing. So she went to Harvard, and then she went to Harvard Medical School. And her boyfriend, who is also going to be a doctor, she's very successful. So I'm very proud of her. Then I have the middle child, which is Zachary, a very handsome, tall, nice, very nice. He's in Chicago now, and we don't know yet what he's going to do. He might go into the same field as his father, a lawyer. My daughter Danielle went to UCLA, and she was a fantastic student too. She's a lawyer. She has a law degree that she has not practiced. She wanted to be a mother and created three beautiful children. Everybody that meets us knows my grandchildren.
What do your grandchildren call you?
Nana. And the young one copies everything I do. She's a very feminine. She was constantly going into my closet and she'll pick out the best purse. Still now. She's tiny, like a size 2, and very vivacious.
Do you talk to your grandchildren or
All
Danielle?
the time.
Do you talk to them about your experiences?
I have, yes. They want to hear it. And in fact, I think the younger one, Amanda, is going to create either a movie or she's writing something she takes all my pictures and I don't know what she does with them, And I think she's a little bit my personality, Natalie is very reserved. Zachary's a little bit on the shy side, But my daughter created 3 beautiful children, good parents, both of them, So I feel I had a successful life here in the United States, and I like you American people.
Is there any message you want to add to anyone who's going to be watching this down the line, maybe your great-grandchildren?
That I appreciate being in this country. I found friends from all over. You see, I felt accepted here. You see, and I was free to develop myself as a woman in business, and I have right away had friends immediately that I could never have elsewhere. And right away. They have to know you for long, long. So I felt I'm thankful for this country. It's not perfect, but no country is perfect. But I still miss my home, Paris.
Do you miss any food?
I miss the food. I miss the city. I miss the ambiance. You go out, you cannot be depressed. There's a cafe every place. Have you been there? Oh my God. And I gave this to my daughter an experience. I sent her there to her family when she was young. She speaks French, It's I think I would compare it. I've never been in Israel like Haifa. And I regret that I've never been in Israel because I'm not very religious, but I'm very Jewish. Do you understand? And I regret that I have not been. I wanted to go now, but now it's not the time. But if I feel physically okay, I would like to still do that with a synagogue, with a rabbi, and learn more about it because my parents just lost a little bit of faith,
Do you belong to a synagogue now?
No, I never want to belong to a synagogue for obvious reasons.
What are the obvious
Because
reasons?
you have your name there, and because of belong to a synagogue, they can come and take you away. So I don't belong to anything. Voila.
Anything else you'd like to add?
What?
Anything else you'd like to add?
Well, I thought I wasn't going to be able to do this because I'm not a shy person, but when it comes to something like this, I don't know if I did okay. I don't know if my daughter will think I did okay.
There's no wrong way, so you did beautifully.
You think so?
Of course.
Yeah, but I appreciate it.
Me too. Thank
Yes.
you.
I did go here in on Olympic to the Jewish, what do you call Shoah, the museum. And that was very difficult for me to look at all these people, the pictures and everything, But I'm grateful that I've been in this country. It has given me what I could not have had in France very easily without a lot of money. I started here with nothing, borrowing from the family, this one and that one. And I opened up in 1 month. I already did my rent, so I felt I was hilariously happy working for myself. Anything else?
Do you have anything?
Not for.
Okay. All right. Tell us about this photograph.
Let's see.
Go
About
ahead.
the photograph?
Yes, please.
Well, this is my parents, my mom and my father. And my father is from Poland originally. And he has been in Paris, I believe, 3 or 4 years before meeting my mother. He had 3 brothers. They all were tailors. He was the youngest in the family, in his family. And his 3 brothers all were married with family. And my father was single because he would work and sent all his money back to Poland for my grandparents to survive and his 2 sisters. So he was invited every night for dinner and a different brother, you know. My mother came to Poland and she met my father almost right away. She went to a restaurant where a lot of immigrants would come and meet my father, and from there on they became a couple. And they got married, I think, almost immediately. I was born in Paris on May. Oh,
Yeah, we could pause there, and we'll learn more about you in a moment.
When was the photo taken?
what?
When was this photo taken?
At the marriage, when she got married in Nancy, which is a other city in France. And at that time, she was 24, I believe. My father, about the same thing.
Do you know what year the picture is from?
Excuse
Do you know what year the picture is from?
1938.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Thank you. Tell us about these photos.
Okay. Do you want me to talk about my pictures?
Yes, please.
Okay. This one was, I was 21. I had just been in the United States one year, and I worked as a makeup artist at the Beverly Wilshire Hotel for important people. And at that time, French people were very popular. So let's see. And this one is I think, I'm not sure if it's before or after.
Okay.
I think I was about 21 here, 21. And here is a painter, an artist who asked me to pose for her. I wanted to buy a picture of a French lady with a hat. She could not sell it to me because it belongs to the model. She said, so why don't you come and pose for me? I never did that in my life. And she decided, I brought a bunch of clothes to put on, and she liked what I was wearing. And she made this painting. And of course, I have it in my house. And she just died not too long ago. Ruth Munson, Munson, very well-known painter. So I was kind of, I couldn't believe it, how good job she did. What I like most about it is that she got my expression in my eyes, which I think is the most difficult. So it's hanging in my house.
Regine, go ahead and tell us about this photograph.
Yes. Well, this photograph was taken by a movie studio. And as I told you, my work was makeup in beauty salons. And I met a lot of wives of producers. And they asked me to pose for them, you know, maybe for, I don't know what they're going to use it for, but anyway, it was displayed in a special auditorium where they look at different pictures. They called me. Two gentlemen called me and invited me for dinner. I guess they were from the movie cast or whatever, and I was not able to go. My parents wouldn't let me go. So that was the end of my career. That's it.
Nice.
Okay. This picture is of me 9 months pregnant at a friend's house who made me a a party, you know, before having a baby. So I think I was exactly 30 years old on this picture. This picture is myself at a friend's house. And at that time, I think I was about 37, 38 years old. This is my sister Paulette. She's my youngest sister. And unfortunately, she's no longer with us. She had 2 children. And she, it's a picture that makes me feel sad. Okay. This is my beautiful daughter, Danielle. I just have one daughter. She was the best child to raise, no problems, still no problems. She has a nice husband and she made me 3 beautiful grandchildren. This is a photo of my granddaughter, Natalie, who's extremely smart. She's a Harvard graduate at medical school. My son-in-law, Mike, my daughter, Danielle, and my handsome grandson. Can you imagine? Let's see, Zachary, and my beautiful Amanda, who's a very interesting little person, very bubbly and beautiful.